Hey, what's up, guys? It's Count Shockley here, bringing you my second Marvel Heroes build video. My first video was Doctor Doom, and it received a pretty good response. I had some Marvel Heroes players wondering when I'm going to do my second video, and here it is, Iron Fist, the newest playable character. Now, I want to make a few comments and points before I get into the build. One, Iron Fist is a more complicated character than what they've been coming out with. They're going to the trend of specializations so they can have a more diversified build between their characters. I think that's a good thing. I've seen some Marvel Heroes YouTubers who basically rush leveled him to 60 and then they make videos asserting that the character is rushed and poorly designed, and I don't think they did the character justice. You won't see me making any build videos or character review videos without taking the character through the cosmic trial and succeeding. And I'm not sure that's the case in most of those YouTubers' videos. One in particular said it was poorly designed and felt rushed, and I totally disagree. I think it's designed very well. I think Iron Fist is a great design. I don't think it was rushed, and I hope they continue the trend of some of these heroes that they're coming out with the specializations, because I think it makes the perfecting your build more interesting. So, having said all that, let's talk about Iron Fist a little bit. He's basically set up to be a multi-bar character. Now, I don't like to play multi-bars. I like to keep it somewhat simple. So you're only going to have one bar in this build. Now, I know a lot of people might in the comments say, oh no, he can do more damage with multiple bars. No, I agree with you 100%. But my preference of play is to try to keep it as simple as possible and just kind of have fun with the character. But I also want to, get somewhat the full potential of the character flushed out. And I have, as you can see right here, if I go to challenges, I've got the cosmic options open on the patrols right here, Midtown and Industry City. So I have passed the cosmic trial. So kind of a word to some of the Marvel Heroes YouTubers: don't make a video just because you leveled the guy, leveled the character up to 60. That doesn't really prove anything. You can't really get a feel for a character just going to 1 to 60. You've got to play some in-game. You've got to get through the cosmic trial, and then you can make those assertions about the character. I mean, you can get a basic feel of the character leveling up, but don't make a video condemning the character after 1 or 2 days if you haven't fully fleshed out the character and experimented with different builds and passed the cosmic trial. So anyway, having said all that, let's go into the power tree of Iron Fist, and I'm going to reset all my points as I always do here. So you can see I have 165 points. He's got 3 trees. He's got martial arts, fighting focus, and chi control. And another thing about Iron Fist is he does have a buff that has 3 specializations, and it seems to be causing some of the players some confusion. I did get into a discussion with some of the someone in the social chat the other day. He didn't think that the character, the chi overload buff was working as intended with the specializations, and I disagree. I think they're working just fine. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe the developers had something else in mind, but I don't think so. I think he was just confused on how this works. So I'm going to try to do my best to explain the chi overload and the specializations, at least 2 of the specializations that I have used in this video. So let's go back to the beginning here. Martial arts tree. I'm going to be using 4 powers from the martial arts tree. Let me clear out my action bar here. Number 1 is Fury of 5 Forces. We're going to be putting 20 points into Fury of 5 Forces, and what this does is whenever a stance opener is on cooldown, you get 25% damage buff. It's a 2.8% per second attack speed. It's got a low chi cost of 50. One thing about Iron Fist that I should mention before going any further. A lot of characters you can use insignias or gear to recharge your chi, or not chi, but your resources. Iron Fist uses chi, but you can use outside influences to recharge your resource during combat. In Iron Fist, you can't do that. The only thing you can do to recharge your chi, or your main resource, is activate a stance opener, and it will automatically grant you your maximum chi. It'll refill your chi, and that's the only way to do it. You can't reduce chi cost. The only thing that reducing chi cost does is, instead of reducing the chi cost during combat, what it does, it lowers the cooldown, reduces the cooldown of your signature move. And I'll get into all that. That's kind of important when you're doing your build. So Fury of 5 Forces, 20 points into that. As you can see, it's maxed out right now, 50 due to my gear. And we're going to put that on the bar. I'm going to be using that a lot because almost always you have a stance opener on cooldown. Now, not always, but majority of the time, about 90% of the time, one of your stance openers is going to be on cooldown. So that's important because you get that 25% damage buff when a stance opener is on cooldown. Next, we're going to do Ninjutsu Dash. It has a default 1 point in Ninjutsu Dash. I'm going to be using that as well. That's just movement power. It's nothing you're really going to be using a lot. If you have chi, a little bit of chi left built up when you use it, it does a little bit extra mental damage. It does a little bit of knockdown, 1.2 second knockdown. It's physical damage. I should say that Iron Fist is majority physical damage with a little bit of mental damage thrown in, depending on how you build the character. And it's got a chi cost of 60, cooldown 2 seconds. So you can also use this to kind of move around the battlefield a little bit, and it's good for getting away from mobs of enemies and everything. But it's not going to be a main. You don't have to have this on your bar. It's just something I usually always put a movement power in my right mouse button, on all my characters. So anyway, another power we're going to be using is a stance combo power. Now, Iron Fist has 5 different stance based on the animal styles. He's got crane, leopard, tiger, dragon, serpent, and each one has a coinciding stance combo power that kind of benefits from being in that selective stance. I'm going to be using 7 Armies Sundered. This is the only stance combo power that I use, and it benefits from being in leopard stance. Leopard stance increases damage, move speed, and attack speed. You'll have a little P icon down here that stands for power in your buff window. That should be right there. Once you're, and each stance that you're in will grant you different buffs or effects. So leopard stance gives you power. Now, what 7 Army Sundered does, it hits 6 times physical damage. Basically, you turn invisible and you quickly strike 6 times. If you're in leopard stance, you're going to strike 9 times, and you're invulnerable for the duration of the power, which is really important. It's got an 8-second cooldown. It's got a high chi cost, though, of 200. So we're going to max that one out. And then we're going to go down, and our signature is at the bottom of the martial arts tree, like unto iron. It's a really good signature. It's more of a single target boss killer. And it says melee area. It does a little splash damage, and it also like punctures foes. It'll hit through an enemy and hit the enemy behind it. It's really pretty cool. And there's a different effect for any kind of stance you're on, or stance you're in. If you're in leopard stance, all your cooldowns are refreshed on all stance opener and stance combo powers. That's really cool. If you're in tiger stance, it always critically hits. If you're in dragon stance, you gain invulnerability. Serpent stance, you get double the damage. You get 100% damage. And I've got the cooldown of this reduced down to 34 seconds. I think the default is 40 seconds, so I've knocked off 6 seconds on my cooldown of that power. So anyway, let's put these on our bar. Well, I gotta confirm points here first. Let's put all these on our bar. What else do I need? 7 armies sundered. Okay, so that's all we're going to be using from the martial arts tree, I believe. Let's go over to fighting focus. Fighting focus tree has our stance openers. Now I'm going to be using 2 stances. I'm going to be using leopard stance. I'm going to max that out. I'm going to be using tiger stance. And I'm going to be switching back and forth from these 2 stances. And I'll explain the specialization and the buff that coincides with these when I get over to that tree. Leopard stance, like I said, increases your power. So it gives you damage rating and move and attack speed buff. The duration for the duration of that, the cooldown on that's 16 seconds. As long as you still have chi, you're going to have that active. You're going to have that active effect. Every time you activate a stance opener, it restores 100% of your maximum chi. And the stance openers also do a damage strike themselves, or whatever buff it gives you, but it will do a strike. Tiger stance is our second one. I'm going to put a leopard on my bar here. I'm trying to remember where I put it. Put it on the 3 spot, and tiger I'm going to be putting on the 2 spot. Now what tiger does, you and your allies gain accuracy, increasing your critical hit rating. So it's kind of nice. And when you're in tiger stance, like unto iron, your signature, always critical hits. Now there's one more thing I'm going to put points in the fighting focus tree, and that is champion of Kunlun. And Kunlun is the mythical city where Danny Rand became Iron Fist. He trained as a martial artist. And basically all this is damage rating buff. Gives you crit hit rating. It also gives you damage bonus to stance opening powers, which isn't really that important because the actual opening, the actual stance openers aren't really that effective as doing damage. It's the buff that you get or the effect you get from being in that stance is more important. So this won't go on the bar. This is purely a passive. So let me confirm that. So I believe that's all out of the fighting focus tree. Let's go to chi control. I'm going to use chi burst. Just some area damage, and this is mental damage. Now, like I said earlier, physical damage is the main focus of Iron Fist since he's a melee character, basically. Chi burst is an area damage, and it's got a low chi cost, so you can spam it. Enemies deal 10% damage. Enemies deal 10% less damage for 8 seconds when you hit them with it. So it's kind of nice, and this is based on mental damage. So let me confirm that and put that on my bar. And here's another passive called Immortal Weapon, and this is similar to what most characters have. Like Rogue has Kree Resilience. Only going to put 1 point in that. This basically is just a defense buff, and you can use it on your bar as an active effect. Will regenerate health, and it gives you a damage mitigation for a couple seconds. But it's an expensive chi cost. It's 300 per second chi cost. So I don't use that on my bar. I just use it as the passive. I put 1 point in it. And basically for the damage reduction, 1 point will get you 8% damage reduction. So that's kind of nice. Next is the buff called Chi Overload with the specializations. I'm going to max this. Let me put 20 into that. As you can see, I've got it leveled out at 50 due to my gear. And I'm going to confirm that. It gives me 5 points left over. 5 points you can either put back into Mortal Weapon or you can put it into Jitsu Dash. It doesn't really matter. I just put it in a Mortal Weapon. My extra 5 points just to get a little bit extra deflect and dodge rating. So anyway, back to Chi Overload. We are going to put Chi Overload on our bar. Now, Chi Overload is, I think, what's giving people a little bit of confusion. Now, Chi Overload is just a buff. You have 3 specializations, or you can have no specialization. If you don't check any one of these boxes, what Chi Overload does when you activate it, it gives you 10% damage to stance combo powers, which is kind of nice. You'll be using 7 Armies Sundered a lot, so I mean that's kind of nice. That would be one way to go. Just don't check any specialization. It's got a 20-second cooldown with a default duration of 8 seconds, and the default cooldown is 20 seconds. It basically just gives you max health. It gives you an increase in brutal damage rating, max health, and whatever stance you're in is maintained for the duration of the effect of Chi Overload, which is 8 seconds default. And if you activate another stance during that 8 seconds, you'll get the benefit from both stances until the effect wears off. See, normally with Iron Fist, if you're in a stance and you change stances, you lose the effect, the buff or the effect of the stance that you're changing out of. So this allows you to overlap stances just for a couple seconds. Like maybe like 7-8 seconds, depending on what specialization you're in. And that's all Chi Overload does. That's basically the gist of it. It's just a buff. Now it's going to change a little bit depending on what style you're in. And what I use to get by the Cosmic, and this is more of a personal preference. And let me try to explain what they do. I use Dedicated Form. Now Dedicated Form is focused on if you're going to be using one stance over and over and over, and then you might switch to a different stance depending on the situation. But if you're facing a single target, you may not want to use your leopard stance. You may want to stay in tiger stance for a while if you're doing against a single target. For one, your signature is going to always crit. 2, you're going to get all that crit damage from your attack. So you might want to stack your tiger stance effect. So let me go. I'm in Dedicated Form, and let me go in and demonstrate what I'm talking about. And hopefully these are reset. Let me go into Tiger Stance. As you can see, I've got a single stance buff, a Tiger buff, increased critical hit rating, and that's 1 stack. And I'm getting a critical rating and critical damage rating increase. I've got this little A icon over here. You can see in my buff window that's right here. So if I strike with my Fury of 5 Forces, which is a low chi cost, I can drain my chi. I can drain my chi bar, and look at all the brutes and criticals I'm getting. Yeah, it's good attack speed. Now I'm out of chi, and I've still got 1 stack over here. And I'm still getting the Tiger Stance. I'm still in Tiger Stance, basically, but I'm out of chi. So let's go ahead and activate Tiger Stance again. Now I've got 2 stacks. So for every stack up to 5 stacks, you get a 20% increase in that buff or effect. So now I should be getting even more crits, 20% more crits, and damage rating, critical rating right here. I don't know about damage rating, but it basically gives you a better chance to crit hit and brutal. So I've just drained my chi, so I can just do that over and over. And let's say I want to quickly get 4 stacks. So I'm going to hit Tiger Stance again. Now I'm going to hit Chi Overload, and it refreshes Tiger Stance. Now I hit Tiger Stance again, and now I have 4 stacks of Tiger. And I'm wearing out my targets already. So I'm in Tiger Stance. I've got 4 stacks now, and I can max out at 5 stacks. Now if I would hit leopard, go into leopard stance, as you can see now it's leopard. I have 1 stack of leopard. It wiped out my 5 stacks of tiger, and I can do my 7 Armies Sundered right here. But I didn't get any critical buff on that. All I got was the power buff. So what I'd want to do is, let's go into leopard again. I'm in leopard. I'd want to hit chi overload. Now I can hit tiger, and now I hit seven armies sunder. Now I'm getting overlap for 8 seconds. I'm getting, and it already disappeared because it takes me a second to hit the button. So I got an 8-second overlap of tiger and leopard. So that's basically what happens there. If when you're in dedicated form, it says you gain chi mastery stacks. It stacks up to 5 times, but the stacks reset if you use a different stance opener. It's that simple. Chi mastery stacks increase the effectiveness of stance affix by 20% per stack. So it also reduces the cooldown of all stance openers powers by 8 seconds, but now they share a cooldown. So basically, when I activate Tiger, it's not 16. It won't be a 16-second cooldown. It'll be an 8-second cooldown. But Leopard will automatically, even though you're not in Leopard stance, it'll activate a global cooldown on your bar of the stance opening powers. So that's the good and the bad of dedicated form. So that's what I mostly stay with. So and remember, if you're in leopard and you use the signature, your stance openers are cut down anyway. So it's kind of nice. If you're in leopard stance, the cooldown's refreshed on all stance opener and stance combo powers. So you can easily stack. You can easily get to 5 stacks fast with dedicated form. So let's go out and let's look at the specializations again. Now the last specialization is called Grandmaster. I haven't really fooled with this too much because because it basically tells you, you can have like 5. You can have all the stances. You can get the buff from all the stances. It's kind of nice when you use your signature power. The cooldown on the signature is reduced to 5 seconds when you have 5 stacks when you're under Grandmaster specialization, but you lose the stack if you use a combo power. So I haven't really fooled with Grandmaster too much. Another good thing about it is it automatically sets off your chi overload when you use your signature power. So you really don't even have to have chi overload on your bar. But I'm not using Grandmaster. I go between twin styles and dedicated form because I like to use the combo power of 5 armies sunder. So anyway, let's go to twin styles. Now the only thing, this is what's confusing some of the players. I think they assume that when you're in twin styles, you're always going to have 2 effects from 2 styles, and that's just not the case. All twin styles does is reduce the cooldown of chi overload to 12 seconds, and it also increases the duration of chi overload by 2 seconds. That's all it does. I mean, if you go over here, it says just that duration 12 seconds increased by twin styles, and cooldown 8 seconds reduced by twin styles. So basically that's all twin styles does. It doesn't really it doesn't keep, I mean, the chi overload still overlaps the power buffs from the stance openers the same as it does in any other specialization. I mean, but that's the only thing twin styles does is reduces the cooldown of your buff and increases the duration of the buff. That's all it does. So it's basically does that because if chi overload is reduced, the cooldown, it means you can get the overlapping effect of the 2 styles more often. That's all it does. So I've gotten in arguments with people over social chat saying that this is bugged and not working correctly, that twin styles, they're assuming that your chi bar is going to be divided in half and you're going to have 2 different types of chi in your chi bar, and I don't think that's what's intended. all it does is reduces the cooldown of the buff, so you can overlap the effects of the two styles more often. That's all it does. So I don't think it's bugged. I think it's working perfectly. I could be wrong. I don't think I am. But anyway, let's that does it. That just about does it. And if if I go in, let's go up here. See, I'm in twin styles right now. So if I hit, I'm in tiger stance right now. So if I hit chi overload, and then I hit leopard, I've got both effects up. I can hit 7 armies sundered. Now I've got all these cooldowns going on, but see how chi overload, the cooldown didn't last very long. It only lasted 8 seconds, reduced from 20. So that's really good. So I'm still in leopard. I can hit chi overload, then go to tiger, and then hit 7 armies sundered again. Well, I hit the wrong button there. I can hit 7 armies sundered, and I'm getting both effects. I'm getting the power from leopard stance, and I was getting the accuracy boost from tiger. So basically, that's all it is. Either one is good. I think you can roll with either one. I prefer dedicated. I just prefer dedicated form. Yeah, that shares a cooldown, but I mean you can refresh the cooldowns nicely. And I like to be able to stack single style. I like to get the effects from the single style stack. So anyway, so that about does it for the power tree of Iron Fist. Oh, I guess I can show. The ultimate, and there's some cool stuff about the ultimate. That's not the sparring target I want. Let's just go over here. Here's a high health raid sparring target. Let's go ahead and activate. Let's go ahead and activate the ultimate because it has a cool little perk. Now the ultimate doesn't last very long, but let's go ahead and activate the ultimate, which is the Spirit of Shao Lao, which is that dragon that he got his tattoo off after he slayed the dragon. Now I can hit tiger style. Now I can come over and I can spam my signature. For 15 seconds, you can spam, I think it's 15 seconds, you can spam your signature. You're going to be always doing a critical hit over and over and over till it runs out. But that's cool that you can spam your signature power after doing Spirit of Shao Lao. So I'm really going to want to get that up to 20 because the synergy bonus that most of the heroes have between the signature and the ultimate, get that 20% bonus. But as you can see, Like Unto Iron has no cooldown for 16 seconds. So that's really nice. That's really good. That to me, that makes it one of the most it makes it one of the best ultimates in the game, and it makes it interesting because you can really wail on a boss after you do the ultimate. It's not anticlimactic. You can actually it gives you something to do after the ultimate hits. You can spam that signature and really wail on the boss or whoever. So anyway, that about does it for the power tree of Iron Fist. Let me look at the gear. Let me bring up the gear a little bit. A lot of the that's the wrong button. Let me bring up the character sheet now. What I'm using for artifacts, I'm using Fists of Apocalypse, Gem of Cursed. I'm using a Cursed Medallion, Cosmic Medallion. I'm using the Blessed Armor Issued Nano Poison. And I've got all these blessed with the Hella Blessing. And I'm using Fred Duke's bodysuit. I've kind of got durability, strength, and fighting all about the same. Durability, you're gonna want to spec a little bit into durability because I'll tell you, Iron Fist is squishy. You're going to be in the middle of your foes a lot of the times. You're going to be taking heavy damage, especially in the Cosmic Patrols. You take heavy. Iron Fist just takes a lot of damage. You're always up in the mix to be most effective. So I would suggest really putting points like Omega points into maybe Mandroid armor, getting the durability up. I'll probably end up changing these challenge bonuses from strength to most of them to durability. I'm probably going to try to get my durability up to about 20 on Iron Fist. Strength for the base physical damage, fighting for the overall base damage, and I put in strength because of the it says minus 13 cheat cost to physical powers. That's not actually that's not actually cheat going to be reducing to the powers. It's actually going to be reducing the cooldown time of the like unto iron, the signature power that I had discussed earlier. So I'll be changing these around. I think I'm going to stick with these artifacts. I might change out Gem of the Curse to something else. I might change out the issued nano poison. What that does is it gives you +2 fighting, a little bit of health regen. When you hit with a melee power, it increases your brutal strike rating, brutal damage rating for 6 seconds, and you can stack that up to 3 times. So that's kind of nice. For the relic, I'm using Relic of Asgard. It's melee damage rating to melee powers. Legendary level 80. I've got ranked up. I'm using Xcal. It's personal preference. The Axes of Ares would work, and there's probably a number of legendaries that'll work. But I went with Xcal. I like to regenerate 300 health on hit on rank 5. As far as the uniques are involved, I'm using all of Iron Fist normal uniques, except I'm using Kiss of the Viper on the 3rd spot because of the durability and the plus fighting and the damage reduction. And you get a buff when you use a melee power and your brutal strike, and it gives me +3 ranks to all powers. So I've been experimenting, switching off with the Code of the Red Skull. I think you can use all of Iron Fist normal uniques, no problem. But I kind of wanted. I've got a lot of these uniques laying around that are kind of rare, and I wanted to start using them on some of my characters. So Kiss of the Viper, you really can't go wrong with. It's pretty good. Or you can put the Red Skull coat on. That's good too, if you have those. For the ring, I'm going to end up using an X-Men class ring with based on the melee and physical damage. I'm using the melee Earl Forge with Bone Breaker. There's probably something better than Bone Breaker, but I'm missing some of the runes I need, like a tier rune. Probably end up using Ultimate Guardian to try to really buff up that ultimate power. So what else? Insignia, I'm just using Insignia of Iron Fist. Gives me attack speed and damage rating to area powers because, Chi Burst is important. You'll be using Chi Burst a lot, especially in the Cosmic Trial. It's mental damage, but you can spam it. It's only 40 per strike. You can spam it. It's good against, if you have it ranked all the way up, it's good against mobs. I mean, it's not going to burn down the Cosmic Trial mobs a lot, but it can give you it can buy you a little time and give you a little bit of damage. So anyway, that's about all I can talk about at Iron Fist, except maybe the Omegas. Covering the synergy really fast. Synergy's not so great. It's just mental damage and 0.25% health regen per second. That's not too bad. I didn't really have a better option, so I just went ahead and went with Iron Fist. I went ahead and added the Iron Fist synergy. Omega system, let's look at that real quick because there is a Iron Fist specific Omega node. I put extra chi. Here's the Iron Fist slot here. It says gain 1% base damage to mental attacks for 5 seconds when you hit with a physical power. So I'll probably put some more points into that. Probably try to max these out. Next is Prince of Orphans. It's basically does the opposite of Iron Fist. It gives you base percentage damage to physical attacks for 5 seconds when you hit with a mental power. And I maxed out Bride of Nine Spiders. You and your allies gain 5% base damage to mental attacks for 10 seconds when you hit with a physical power. So that's kind of nice. So these are personal preference. Another thing I recommend you putting points into Mandroid armor maybe. Once again, that's a personal preference. I'm probably going to end up putting more points into Mandroid armor just because I can. You'll notice especially when you get into the Cosmic Patrols, you take a lot of damage as Iron Fist. I'm warning you right now. If you're a player that doesn't like to take heavy damage, then Iron Fist probably isn't for you. There's no way to really sit on the sidelines and he's not Scarlet Witch or Doctor Doom. You really have to focus when you're playing him. There's a lot of cooldown management. There's a lot of rotation, keeping the buff up. and you take heavy damage when you're in the mix. So you might want to spec in. A lot of people don't like to spec into the defense, anything that, durability or defense, but Iron Fist, it's almost a necessity, so it's not too bad. And last but not least, I'll probably be making a video about this. Iron Fist, the team up I'm using is Howard the Duck. So I don't want to spoil the other video, so I don't want him going into certain powers that I want to showcase that Howard the Duck has. So anyway, guys, that does it for my Iron Fist video. So if you have any questions or comments, just leave them in the comment section below. If the video helped you out, like and subscribe to my channel. I'm probably going to be rebranding my channel for 2016 to focus mainly on Marvel heroes. You can catch me on Twitch at twitch.tv/CountShocula. So till my next build video, I will talk to you guys later.